Well, it's May 4th, so you know what that means? A lot of Star Wars fans gonna tell you, it's not really Star Wars Day, that's May 25th. Well, let's celebrate Star Wars Day. Welcome back to the Junkman, everybody. It's me, the Junkman, coming back at you with another video on May 4th. May the 4th be with you. And yes, I used to be that hack guy that would tell you, Star Wars Day is actually May 25th. That's the real Star Wars Day. Or I might say something as dumb as, Star Wars, that's every day. Well, yes, it is every day for big fans, I guess. But I've come to embrace that Star Wars Day is the official Star Wars fan day. At least for the casual fans. You know, the moms that love Baby Yoda. For me, Star Wars Day will, of course, like many of you, be May 25th. The day Star Wars was released upon the world. Or at least in a few cities. But what am I going to do for May 4th? What am I going to do for May 4th? I can sit here and rank all the movies, but I've done that before. And I could sit here and, tell you about the movies, something you've already heard 100 times before. So I figured I would just talk to you about Star Wars and what it means to me. First off, a lot of people say, Star Wars? Dude, that's just a movie. Well, it's not just a movie. Star Wars isn't just a movie. Star Wars isn't just a video game. Star Wars isn't just a hat with the word Star Wars written on it. No, Star Wars is not just a movie. And I don't mean it's just entertainment either. Sure, it's a movie. Sure, it's a cartoon series. Sure, it's a live-action television show series. Sure, it's video games and novels and comics and everything else. I've even seen a Star Wars mouse pad. We've seen it all when it comes to Star Wars. So Star Wars is a lot more than just, entertainment. But to me, Star Wars is part of my DNA. Say Star Wars, you can't tell me that Star Wars is just a movie or Star Wars is just entertainment. Star Wars is just fun because Star Wars makes me who I am today. There's no doubt in my mind if I didn't see Star Wars or if I didn't fall in love with Star Wars or there was no Star Wars, that my life would be totally different now. One thing, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to a camera to you guys out there. If I was, I'd probably be talking about, the Dukes of Hazzard or something, although I do still talk about that, but all this wouldn't have been back here. All this might have been Hardy Boys action figures. Who knows what it would have been, but I would have been a different person. Who knows? I might be a congressman right now, or maybe even the president. Who knows what my life would have been like, and I don't care. I like my life with Star Wars in it. I can't imagine going through life without Star Wars. Now, a lot of people say, well, Junkman, how did you fall in love with Star Wars? What brought you to Star Wars? What was it that made it so different than any other movie? And let's go back to 1977. Of course, I was going on 5, so I don't really remember that much about it, but I do remember some key events, and I do know I saw it at the theater, me and my brother, and probably my grandma took us. But my first really memory of Star Wars came in 1978, where I can remember me and my brother in my grandma's truck. Yeah, my grandma drove a pickup truck. Anyway, I love that truck. I used to play Indiana Jones on that truck all the time. Crawl under it like I was in it. But we're not talking Indiana Jones. We'll save that for another day. But we went to Zayre's. I can still see it in my head. As far as I know, this was probably in 78 because this is when the toys first came out. Remember walking down the aisle and there they were. Star Wars 12 back. I didn't know they were 12 back at the time. On a whole wall, probably a 4-foot section of all the figures you could imagine. Well, not all the figures you could imagine because there was one I couldn't find, Han Solo. But we looked at him and my brother picked up Obi-Wan Kenobi. He looked at it and my grandma said, oh, y'all can both get one, just one. My brother already had Obi-Wan Kenobi. But that's okay. I knew who I wanted without a doubt, and that was Han Solo. We looked through the pegs. There was no Han Solo. There was Luke Skywalker. There were Stormtroopers. There were Princess Leia's. There was R2-D2's. There was everybody except Han Solo. What's the deal, Zayres? Why didn't you order enough Han Solos? Why did you get shifted when it? I don't understand. But started looking, who else could I get? Luke Skywalker? I was always more of a Han Solo type guy. Even as a kid, I liked Han Solo a lot more. I mean, he was the cowboy of the movies, Luke Skywalker was the dreamer wannabe. I connected more with Han Solo, even as a young kid. So I started looking through it, and I said, I'm tempted to get Luke, and I picked up Luke. I remember I looked at it and said, I'm going to get Luke Skywalker. Then my brother said, oh, why can we only get one? I started asking my grandma, and it was like, oh, man, I tell you, if I could get two, I would get C-3PO. And I was like, what? You would get that C-3PO? What? Even as a small kid, 1978, 6, 7 years old, I knew. I said, what? Why would you get that? And he said, well, 3PO, he's not a human. He's kind of a droid, or we call him robots. Hey, Luke Skywalker even called him a robot in A New Hope, so don't judge us. So it's like, he's a robot. He speaks different languages, and he's kind of funny. And I was like, I don't know. But that's like my brother, my older brother. I looked up to him. Maybe he has a point. If he wants C-3PO, if that's going to be the next one he's going to buy, I'm going to get it. I'm going to have it. Then, if I want to play with his Obi-Wan Kenobi, I can say you can play with my 3PO. So I got 3PO. We headed out of the Zeta. Well, we didn't head out of the Zeta. We headed to the checkout. We paid for it. Walked past some bubblegum machines, I'm sure, and I probably got something else there. Maybe one of hand buzzers where you shake somebody's hand and it goes, Bzz! I always love that. You can find them in the bubblegum machines. But anyway, we got to the car. He opened up his Obi-Wan, pulled it off. Oh my God, why? Why did he open it? It'd be worth so much money today. But that's why it's worth money today, because people like him and like us, we ripped him open. So he got it out, started playing with his Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh, look at the lights there. I didn't have nothing. I pulled out my 3PO, like, look, doesn't have a gun, doesn't have a lightsaber, doesn't make a sound. At least I got R2, I got a head, tick-tock in his head. So I shook him, look at my 3PO. But I was happy. It was Star Wars. It looked a lot like it. I thought it looked just like it in the movie. And that's when my brother hit me with some knowledge I'll never forget. And it made me learn a lot that day. He said, oh, can't believe you got that. That's the worst one. I would have got a Stormtrooper or a Luke Skywalker or something. And I was like, what? You said it was the best. He's like, I just said that so you wouldn't buy Luke Skywalker or a Stormtrooper. So he got me. He made me buy the worst one. So next time we buy a Star Wars figure, he could have one of the cool ones. Now, me and my brother, we played Star Wars a lot growing up in the late 70s and early 80s. He had most of the stuff. He had, we shared it. We never really fought about who had what. It kept at my grandma's house. We had all the ships. We had all the play sets. We had about everything I could think of, except for that Star Destroyer play set. That's the one I don't remember ever having. But anyway, he got a little older. I was still playing with toys, so that became more mine. And I started collecting Return of the Jedi, adding to the collection. And, then around 1985, I kind of moved on. I started getting He-Man figures for some reason. Sorry, Star Wars. But not only just the figures, but going to school. I can remember, this is bad. I know this is bad. This is probably why I'm not president or working for Congress. I can remember sitting in the class. Everyone's listening, talking about what they're going to do, the assignment and everything. And I was replaying Star Wars in my head. Now, I say I was replaying Star Wars in my head, but this was before VHS, DVDs, and all that. So I probably didn't even know what was happening. But I had the story of Star Wars record. That's right. It was a record that told basically this whole story of Star Wars with the narrator sounds from the movie. It was awesome. And this was my Netflix for Star Wars. This was how I experienced Star Wars the most. That wasn't until it came on HBO, and we recorded it off HBO and watched it all the time. But I can remember playing that in my head, every scene, step by step, And the teacher's like, okay, Junk Kid, it's your turn. What's the answer for number 2? Jawa? And then recess comes. I had my white t-shirt with the collar that was blue around here. Star Wars poster picture on it. It's starting to peel off because my mom washed it. Kind of like this one's peeling off too. Then I wanted to talk about Star Wars. They was like, hey dude, that movie came out in 1977, dude. It's 1981. Why are you still talking about that? I didn't care. I wanted to talk about Star Wars. Anyone I could. Anyone I saw, I wanted to talk about Star Wars. Hey, Boyd, who's your cousin here? That's the first time I ever met your cousin. Do you like Star Wars? Who's your favorite character? I always wanted to talk Star Wars. I don't know. Me and my brother could always talk Star Wars. I remember getting the Empire Strikes Back trading cards, reading trivia and stuff on the back of it, asking him what he thought. Is Darth Vader really Luke's father? What do you think? I was convinced that he wasn't. I was like, he told that old man, he said, I'll do anything to get Luke to join me, so he lied. I couldn't accept it. I could not accept it. And then I would accept it, and I wouldn't. I would go back and forth. I think a lot of us did that. And then Return of the Jedi came out. That's the one I remember seeing Empire, but I can definitely remember seeing the most is Jedi. I mean, I was going on 11 then, so of course I could remember that. Me and my brother, right after school, he had a friend named Tony. We went to school to see it together. So it was about 3:30. The line went went up the hill and across the road, and we stood in that line and we waited to see it, and it was fantastic. I can remember when it first showed Luke Skywalker walking into Jabba's palace. I was convinced that's Darth Vader. But no, it was Luke, and then he force chokes and Gormonian guards. I said, oh my God, Luke has gone bad. What is this world coming to? But Lucas was just trolling us. But then, VCRs came out, was getting popular. Star Wars came out a few years later on videotape. Watched them over and over again. Pan and scan. Had to watch them in pan and scan. Yeah. And then probably around 86, 87, Star Wars started to really die out for me. I was getting older. I still loved it. I would still watch it. I still listen to the record, but I was moving on to music and stuff, and chasing girls, trying to chase girls, and, doing teenager stuff. And Star Wars kind of fell by the wayside. I would go back to it every now and then. But for the most part, I wasn't crazy about it like I was. And then, in the early 90s came. I can remember hanging out at a little comic book store. People would talk about, the prequels. George Lucas is going to make more Star Wars movies. It's going to be like by Anakin when he was younger and became bad. And I heard those for years. Anakin and Obi-Wan's going to fight on a volcano. He's going to fall into a volcano. And it took so long that I thought this never going to happen. And then, I started getting back into Star Wars thanks to the comics, the old comics, the Marvel comics from the 80s. Here it was in the early 90s. My local comic book store had Star Wars comics in the dollar bin. Sometimes they were $2, mostly in the dollar bin. And every week I had a checklist I would bring with me. I would buy one of the comics, check it off my list, and was really into buying these comics. It really transported me back into another time, back into my childhood, more than probably that and the toys have. I would look through it. I remember I had a few issues. They had a little comment section where people were sending fan letters, and it was awesome to read because you could read what people thought back then when these came out, 81, 82 and stuff. And I started buying all these comics I could get. It was awesome. And I'm glad I bought them then and not now. They've gone up in price, but what hasn't, right? So that was pulling me back into Star Wars. And I can remember I was getting into some other comics. I bought I think it was Terminator, The Enemy Within. I think that was a series I bought from Dark Horse. Flipped it over on the back, and what did I see? What did I see on the back of this Terminator comic book? Star Wars. An all new Star Wars comic book was coming called Dark Empire. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia. They were all coming back, and here was a teaser poster of it with some really crazy art of the Falcon. And I told the guy at the comic book store, I knew him, and I was like, hey, save me a copy. No, save me 2 copies of Dark Empire issue 1. I'm going to get it. Tell me when it comes out. I will be here. And I said, I know you get your comics, you put them out on Thursday, but you get them Wednesday night. Call me Wednesday night. I'll be down here to get it. I was so excited. And about this time also, Heir to the Empire was out. I heard a lot of good things about Heir to the Empire. I didn't really read it. Never really read books. I read a few books, but I never really got into books. I did get the audio tape of it, but I listened to it in the car. If I listened to it in my room, I would tone out. So I would listen to it in the car, but it would always be like a 15-minute drive. So I never really could get into it much. I did enjoy what I listened to, and I've gone back and kind of listened to it since then. But, I was like, this is what, 93? 93-ish? Star Wars was, at least to us hardcore Star Wars fans, Star Wars back. It would take a few more years for it to become more mainstream, but it was back. And around this time, the comic book store I was going to buy these Star Wars comics, well, guess what? They started selling old Star Wars toys. I couldn't believe it. There was an X-Wing sitting right there, an X-Wing. He had a land speeder. I could not believe it. So I said, how much is the X-Wing? And he's like, $20. I was like, $20 for an X-Wing? That toy's over 10 years old. What are you talking about? But I broke down and I bought it. And that started my love for buying the old toys again. Went to my grandma's house, got the box of old toys we had. A lot of them was missing, but I took a lot of them. I had a girlfriend at the time. She had an aunt that said, I got a lot of Star Wars stuff in the basement. She gave it all to me. AT-AT, figures, ships, a lot of stuff. Really helped my collection. Later I heard that her kids got upset at her. Why'd you give away my Star Wars stuff? That's going to be worth something one day. It might be, but I got it now. Losers, weepers, finders, keepers. That's what I say. So, I started getting back into that, and then started getting into newer toys, Batman, the animated series figures, and we all would talk at the comic book store, hang out with my buddy Russ, be like, man, why don't they bring Star Wars back to a toy store? Well, they did, with Bendums. And people made fun of them, but I didn't care. I bought them. Bendums. I didn't care. I was just so happy to see Star Wars back on the shelf. And then about this time, Micro Machines came out, little Star Wars ships. Had to get them. But in 1995, Star Wars was back on the toy aisle, thanks to the big muscle Star Wars figures from Hasbro. Power of the Force. So why are they reusing that name? Why? Why are they reusing that name? Well, I had no reason why they reused it, but they did. And these were big and muscly. I guess somebody told him, hey, Junkman used to buy Star Wars figures, but he moved over to He-Man. He likes muscles, so maybe that's why they made them muscles. It's all my fault, maybe. So, I got Star Wars, started buying those. Me and my buddy Russ would try to find each one. Oh, got to get on the orange card with the full sticker. Without the long saber, short saber. Long saber, short tray. Boba Fett with a circle in his hand. Half circle in his hand. It was crazy. We were crazy about the Star Wars stuff. And that lasted a few years. And as you guessed, 1997 came. Me and my buddy Russ was right there at the theater opening night. Star Wars Special Edition. I could not believe it. Star Wars was back, baby. Star Wars was back on the big screen. Star Wars was back on the big screen. And that's when, to me, Star Wars came of age. That's when Star Wars was back. Since 1997, Star Wars has been back. You walk in the store, you see everything Star Wars. Everybody loves Star Wars. People complain, new Star Wars is good. My Star Wars, that's my Luke Skywalker, not your Luke Skywalker. And all, But man, 1997 is just, from there you're there. The prequels, you had some lag time, but you have the expanded universe really taking off. Star Wars really became something then. But as you can see, how much Star Wars has been in my life. And now, that's a part of Star Wars that really kind of obsessed me, and that's the fan. Sorry about that. I cut this out. I was going to bash how some of the fans are today, but I'm not going to do that. We're here to talk about what we love about Star Wars today, and we're not going to rag on the fans that kind of, I'm not going to say anything else about that. I have my problems with the sequel stuff, the newer Star Wars stuff. I do have a problem with it. Some of it I love, some of it I hate, some of it I just like, some of it I'm like, I don't even look at it. So I won't even go there on the video, so we'll cut that part out. But again, as you can see, Star Wars meant a lot to me. Sure, it meant a lot to you. And I'm sure, like many of you, it's not just a movie. It's not just an action figure line. It's not a comic book. It's not just a video game. It's part of you. It's part of your DNA, who you are. I can't walk into a store without doing this with the automatic doors. Even when I'm by myself. I just do like I'm forced opening doors. I can't help it. But let me know in the comments section what Star Wars meant to you. Is it more than just, maybe you're like, it's just a movie, dude. Just a movie to you. And I get that. There's some people that are really into their sports teams, and I don't understand that. But hey, I'm really into my Star Wars. So anyway, happy May 4th. May the Force be with you and all that. Don't get grouchy if someone says it. Don't get upset if someone says May the Force be with you. Enjoy it. Embrace it. Accept it. It's Star Wars Day. Thank you for listening.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.